On August 6, 1973, the first day of the Yom Kippur War, the Kurdish people group was confronted with a strange test. In this video, it's pretty difficult to make a real scene out of it on screen, but it's best to close your eyes and try to imagine it. I'll be narrating and requoting the pilots as it's the best I can do for this sort of operation. Anyways, the American-produced F-4 Phantom II was utilized by the Israelis in air-to-ground missions as an assault airplane and in aerial missions as a fighter. Regardless of performing the two jobs with equivalent achievement, the Israeli dependence on the Mirage Delta fighters implied that the F-4 was utilized most routinely in its air-to-ground job. As stated by Shlomo Aloni in his book Israeli F-4 Phantom II Aces on October 6, 1973, the first day of the Yom Kippur War, the F-4s were confronted with an unconventional test. It was nightfall when the F-4 teams were given the undertaking of blocking low and moderate flying Egyptian Mi-8 helicopters under scarcely adequate light conditions over the desert. Many Mi-8s infiltrated the Sinai Desert, conveying Egyptian commandos entrusted with assaulting the Israeli Defense Force daintily and safeguard the key back area establishments and setting ambushes to make devastation among Israeli fortifications. With most of the Defense Force 4 front units previously dedicated to the battle, and with the stores despite everything being sorted out, just a pitiful soldier were prepared to confront the commandos. That portentous nightfall, it was the F-4s which influenced the situation. The collaboration between the two groups in each Kurnis, in addition to the fly's battle capacity, gave the essential component. Therefore, F-4 interceptors crushed two significant Egyptian assaults, at Ras Sidor in the southern area and Tassa in the middle. The large fighter aircraft showed up when the Mi-8s had nearly arrived at the assigned landing targets. The groups were soon to locate the battling Mi-8s was an altogether different type of air battle. Drawing in moderate, low-flying helicopters was more similar to assaulting vehicles on the ground than a battle airplane. Land barraging methods were to be more valuable than aerial strategies. Ran Gorin was a fighter unit commanding officer flying as an EP with a number 107 squadron. He was at one point acknowledged with 2 executes as a Mirage 3 pilot, and his next task was to be as commanding officer of the number 201 squadron. Presently, he was the first to draw in the Mi-8s, as he later reviewed. Around early afternoon, I was the pioneer of the quick reaction alert pair, with Dubi Yaffe as my partner, and were mixed to the Suez Canal. We were vectored to capture assaulting Egyptian airplane, and we saw the smoke of different airstrikes from a right way. Yet when we got closer, there was no airplane to draw in as they had just withdrawn. The first occasion when we released our outer fuel tanks, however, I wasn't stressed over our fuel state as I suspected we could land at Rephidim. At the point which we finished these useless captures, Yaffe had enough fuel to come back to Hatzerim, however I didn't, so I reached Rephidim over the radio and requested to land there. The appropriate response was, Rephidim was besieged, you can't land here. I stated, I'm low on fuel, I have no other choice, and I should land. I was told, land on equal runway. It was just 20 meters wide, contrasted at a typical width of 45 meters, yet it was less harmed than the primary runway. I landed and investigated the solidified air cover. I was some of the number 119 F-4 squadron close by from a more seasoned creation square. Although this trial, I didn't meet the number 119 squadron air crews as they were all airborne. When the ground crew chipped away at my stream, they saw a gap in the assistant air admission entryway brought about by a stone hurled by the wheels when I arrived on the shortened parallel runway. They extemporized and fixed and let me know your airplane is alright, you can fly home. I maneuvered to the parallel runway, and when I began the takeoff run, I got a damaged tire. I was going quite quickly and needed to conclude whether to prematurely end the takeoff or attempt to quicken more to accomplish flight. I decided if I proceeded with, we'd crash, so I prematurely ended. I figured out how to keep the airplane on the shortened runway. I dismissed so as not to obstruct the runway, turned off the motors, and sat tight for a jeep. By then, it was around 1700 hours. and when I showed up at the air cover and I saw an Nashar aircraft there. I don't have a piece of evidence where I got this thought from, however, as I said to the Nashar pilot, were a couple from the number 119 Squadron quick reaction alerts. I told ground control we were prepared. However, it was getting dull, so I figured that there was a slight possibility of being mixed. Around 15 or after 20 minutes, an alarm went, and we were mixed. We raced to the airplane, and ground control let us know helicopters flying cast, ascent, heading 270. We took off on a similar runway. It was 17:45 hours and getting dull. Unexpectedly, I saw 12 Mi-8 helicopters flying at low elevation in a precious stone arrangement. I jumped, started shooting, and missed. However, they dissipated everywhere. A helicopter was a troublesome objective. We could assault it with a fixed sight as though it was a ground target, however moving truly quick, or with a gyro sight like it was an airplane flying gradually. Another trouble I encountered was that the switches in the prior square airplane were dissimilar to those in our later ones. In any case, that was the most trivial part of my difficulties. I assaulted one helicopter, again utilizing my gyro sight, and this time it detonated. By then it was 1800 hours and dim. I needed to restore the airplane to Rephidim. I reached Rephidim, yet the appropriate response was, no arrivals here around evening time. I was in a predicament. I had a lot of fuel since we had not utilized max engine propulsion in the commitment so that I could fly either to my base in Hatzarim or to the F4s in Tel Nol. I chose to restore the fly to its proprietors in Tel Nor. I took the weapon film as proof of the execute, and we sorted out the vehicles in Hatzarim on board a Nord-Noratlis transport flying a motor to the base. We showed up at 2000 hours. Since taking off around 1400 hours, we had been vectored to connect with a ride on a harmed, limited equal runway. Our airplane was damaged and fixed. We got a punctured tire and prematurely ended at takeoff. We ad-libbed a quick reaction alert pair flying another group's aircraft with the Nesher as a partner. We'd been mixed, we'd destroyed a helicopter, and we'd flown the airplane back to its base and got back in a Nor-Atlas. A significantly insane day. Just everything considered did I understand the significance of our activity. There were 12 Mi-8 helicopters, each conveying 25 commandos. The one we destroyed smashed simply outside the edge of Rephidim. If 300 Egyptian commandos had assaulted the base that night when it was not yet appropriately made sure about and the nearby soldiers were, as however, stunned by the Egyptian airstrikes, the outcomes can be effortlessly envisioned. From that point forward, at whatever point Eisler Cheetah Cohen, who is Rephidim's commanding officer, meets me, he reports, "Here's the pilot who spared Rephidim." Number 201 Squadron 4 transport arrangement on a combat air patrol crucial, additionally vectored to capture the low-flying Mi-8s, guide Ichchak Amate reviewed. My first fight during the Yom Kippur War was with Ben Ami Peri. Ground control vectored us to draw in MiGs, yet we discovered none. Rather, we sidestepped surface-to-air missiles and depleted our fuel before coming back to base. We were then mixed with flying air combat patrol, yet while airborne, the pair we were driving was joined by another. We proceeded with the watch as a 4-transport arrangement, with Aitan Palid driving. The Egyptians propelled numerous surface-to-air missiles towards us, so we rapidly figured out how to fly on the limits of the Egyptian Air Defense Force surface-to-air envelopes. It was nightfall, and we were searching for the helicopters, as ground control had disclosed to us that they were there. Out of nowhere, somebody yelled, "There they are!" What's more, they were 6 Mi-8s of an ideal arrangement at low height. Flying around, we alternated in assaulting them. We had rehearsed helicopter capture situations, and we realized it was an intense strategy. We were unable to bolt our radars onto them as they were flying so low. Peri, with his sight in confined position, assaulted them like barraging a ground target. In 4 passes, we destroyed 3 helicopters. They were clear executed. It was a dreamlike scene, with helicopters bursting into flames at sunset. I focused on 2 fundamental issues during the commitment, not dismissing the helicopters, and looking for any outer danger, particularly surface-to-air missiles, with the goal that Peri could focus on flying and destroying the helicopters. Ben Ami Peri and his pilot Ichchak Amate killed 3 Mi-8s. Aitan Palid and Abraham Ashel wrecked 2 more, and Moshe Koren and Elin Lazar guaranteed the 6th. At last, the number 201 Squadron pair likewise participated in the battle, Yonatan Afir and pilot Avikam Leaf striking 2 helicopters. They were accredited with a single attack, as the second Mi-8 figured out how to limp back home to Faid. At the Rassador part, number 107 Squadron Senior Representative Commanding Officer Shlomo Agozi and guide Roy Manoff soon discovered that shooting air-to-air missiles at the Mi-8s was pointless, as an open innovation made such a commitment unfeasible. Agozi and Manoff then killed 4 Mi-8s with gun discharge, and then lastly returned to utilize the impact from their powerful jet engines thrusting and crushing the helicopters to the ground as they pulled up in full max engine thrust after a nearby overhead pass. Agozi's partner, Dubi Yaffe, got another Mi-8, preceding he needed to withdraw. The 2 F-4s were flying in various designs, Agozi's Stream having 3 outer fuel tanks and Yaffe's just 2. Agozi kept on battling the helicopters until the Delta fighter showed up, the last bringing down 2 additional helicopters. Anyway, that's the end of the battle. I hope y'all enjoyed, and make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can see when we get out other videos. Y'all have a good one.